Azavan.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 11th of August, 2019. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
I can't believe it's the 11th already.
And Robert Kemp.
Time flies when you're melting.
It's not been that warm.
It's been fairly warm.
Not compared to the extremely hot July day that we narrowly avoided last time.
It's not been quite that bad.
Practically mild.
I've been sleeping with the fan off for a couple nights.
I mean, today outside was kind of the perfect temperature, and it was windy as well, so it was or breezy at least. So it was like, I wouldn't adjust it up or down from here. I'd just make it a bit sunnier because it was a bit cloudy.
You can't really have more sun and less heat, though. those two are kind of mutually exclusive.
Well, you can.
In summer, anyway.
In summer, yeah.
If you want to move to autumn, then you might be okay.
Exactly. But then maybe the perfect days are like September days sometimes. Well, sunny September days, I mean.
Yeah, I suppose. Sunny
you
September
remember,
could be pretty nice.
Going back to school, trying to play hockey and it being boiling?
Yeah, I do. Or that,
That was more like the end of school, though, not the going back to school.
No, I remember.
It's like the June and July, right at the end.
Yeah, but that
point... we've got to give those last few matches or whatever.
Right.
We tended not to have a hockey season in summer.
Exactly.
I don't know. It was like it started like in September.
Well, that's true, I guess. They preferred instead to make you die of freezing in the winter matches.
Like football.
Yeah. It's got to be rugby on top field.
I think one time I was a replacement substitute or whatever for the actual hockey team of the high school.
Oh, really?
Like the one time I actually was in the team, it was the fucking coldest night ever, and I just died, basically. It's like, great, this is fun.
The cold makes it so much worse, doesn't it? Because it's like it's not just that you're cold; it's that every impact is shattering.
Well, and like it's like theoretically you're meant to be moving around a lot, so it shouldn't be that bad. But that doesn't happen in like low grade school sports. There's quite a lot of downtime where you're not really doing much.
You're just hanging out at the back, going,
"Yeah,
yeah, I'm all right."
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, is the ball coming this way? Yeah, it might be. Give it a minute. It's trembling.
I don't know if I ever got to play on the Ipswich School main field that was integrated into the school and you saw every day. They would just send you to the top of the most windswept hill nearby.
Oh, what you mean the cricket pitch? That's because it's a cricket pitch, right?
Well,
That's
I know, but I didn't get to play cricket on it.
No, they reserved that for something.
People who were good.
Yeah.
I guess.
The staff. I think there was the occasional staff versus students match that I think happened there.
You were probably there long enough to see that kind of thing happen.
I think it happened maybe twice. I don't know. I don't really remember it always being. Well, they did let us on for breaks occasionally.
Yeah, I remember that.
Occasionally, with a big fence around the cricket square.
Did you see people using those Eton fives courts?
I used to play fives.
Really?
A lot. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean,
I loved it.
I never got the opportunity, I don't think.
It's weird. That's come up in conversation quite a lot recently for some reason.
How come?
Yeah. I don't know. Just sort of people talking about sports they used to be all right at. And mine is a little bit of badminton and Eton fives.
Because it's like such a weird, it's like a concrete recreation of the Eton schoolyard.
Yeah.
So it's got a little weird bit of roof.
Pretty much everyone I've spoken to about it in recent times has no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah,
they're just like, sorry, what? You mean it's like squash, but they put a step on it, and it's like, oh no, that's not all. There's a bit of wall sticking out.
It's basically just legit bundle ball. It's essentially what that game is.
How does it work again?
It's basically squash.
You with a racket?
No, with your hands.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
You wear a leather glove and you just mash this little ball of other leather.
I bet you don't have to wear a glove though.
I mean, you don't have to, but it's highly recommended. It kind of hurts. Yeah, and it's basically squash. You're it's doubles squash, but is how we played it. So you'd have to have one player up on the step and one player off the step, and there's like a line around the sort of midway point, which the ball has to go over. If it's under, then that's sort of out. I suppose, and you're both hitting it against the wall to try and make it double bounce to win a point.
Right.
And that, as far as I know, as far as I remember, that's pretty much it. I mean, I think there's some rule about serving because there always is, right?
Yeah, there always is.
Yeah, and I think the top player has to only play shots on the top, and the bottom player only has to play shots. I can't remember if you're allowed to swap and move around like that. I
feel like that game with its very specific court, which is based on a real location and all that stuff. It's like, I feel like, I'm sure we've said this before about sports in general, and probably about Rocket League specifically even, but like, real sports should just have like weird courts sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
mix it up a bit.
Wouldn't it be awesome? Yeah, so like if Eton Fives was based on Eton, but like the Eton courts were that shape, and then you go to Ipswich, and their courts are a different shape. Like there's no regulation. Well, there are some rules
there's
what
like
it has to be,
set
but
version, or like you don't have every different place have a different one. Maybe have like a 3 or 4.
Yeah, so every time you go to somewhere, and it'd be like, hey, look, today's arena is this. Watch out for this. Like, here's how it plays, and the teams get some amount of time to warm up on the court to get a little bit used to it. But obviously, the home team has a massive advantage. And so I think that'd be really cool.
Is it called Eton Fives because there are other forms of fives?
I don't think so.
Or is that the only fives?
It's probably because you have 5 fingers and that was just the dumb name they came up with.
That's the thing. Yeah, I have absolutely no idea
like the kind of stupid name a school game would have had.
Yeah, because why is it called? Because it's played with 4 players. It's not even like 5 aside or anything like that.
The ball counts as a person.
I guess. Yeah, maybe there's 5 moving elements. Or I don't think you even play to 5. I think you play to like standard. Like badminton or
11 for some reason.
Like 11s or 21 or something like that. Those sort of numbers. Because 5 is a bit small. Maybe play 5 games. I don't know. It's a best of 5.
No, that would kind of make sense.
Yeah,
but that's a bad thing to base the name of your entire game on. The scoring system.
Yeah, it's like be calling tennis like Game of Loves.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just Deuce. Deuce. Wasn't Rummy Cub actually just basically like the condition of when you win, effectively? Don't know why I thought Rummy Cub.
Yeah, I don't know why you thought that either.
Blackjack? I suppose that's
okay, that's
because
one.
its scoring system is blackjack.
Well, that might have happened the other way around though.
Yeah, maybe
they might have just decided to stop calling it 21 and just call it blackjack. And therefore the win condition also became blackjack.
Yeah, you might be right. I remember it being called Pontoon, that game.
Maybe.
Blackjack, I mean. I remember seeing like old like arcade machines that my dad used to play when we were playing better games that were like blackjack arcades, but they were called pontoons. Pontoon also the word for the floaty things on aircraft. Or any kind of floating thing.
Floating things.
Floaty things.
I was thinking about that. Like, maybe that name comes from like some Prohibition era, like when they used to do all their illegal shit on boats. It's just like we can't call it the obvious name that the cops know. It's like we have to call it pontoon, so it appears we're talking about part of a boat.
Not just call it the illegal floats. The floats. You can just call it the floats. So they have to be like, we're going to host a party on my floats. On my pontoon.
That's what pontoons are, though, right?
Pretty much. They're just giant floats. Yeah. I mean, they're called floats when you swim, right? They're not like given a fancy name there, like.
Arm pontoons.
I'm gonna use my swimming pontoon. I suppose they are referred to as buoyancy aids.
It implies that you're already buoyant, which you are, I suppose, but
it's aiding your buoyancy.
People,
yeah.
Are some people not buoyant?
No, some people aren't.
Oh, really?
In like average ass water, anyway. Everyone's buoyant at a certain point if you go to the Dead Sea or whatever.
Yeah, if it's salty enough. What makes you more buoyant?
Does it take to be not buoyant? Yeah.
I don't know. They just must be born dense. Maybe they just have smaller lungs or something. Not so much airspace.
They're just right, muscly, big bone chunks. Those are the sort. Like, because fat's buoyant.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can totally make yourself non-buoyant if you
more buoyant?
deliberately breathe out.
I mean, yeah, you can. You can sink by exhaling.
Yeah. So it's like you're not actually that far from not being buoyant. It's just that normally you're holding a bunch of air inside you as well.
You're like almost neutral, most people, I guess, on average.
Didn't you used to do that in the swimming pool, right? Like exhale to just the right amount so you were like halfway down.
Yeah.
So you were like hovering like 1 meter under the water or something.
Do you guys go swimming anymore?
I mean, kind of no, because...
Kind of no?
Kind of no.
How can you kind of not go swimming?
Because you can go in swimming pools on holiday and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well,
I don't exactly go regularly.
Really
like, I don't intentionally go for a swim particularly, unless I'm like, it happens to be like, oh, I'm going to a spa or someone's invited me to a gym that has a hot tub, but there's a pool right next to it. So I better do a couple of lengths and then get in the hot tub.
Right.
Like, that's happened the last couple of times I've been to a pool. In fact, I'd be like, I'll go for a little swim, but I'm here for the hot tub.
There's a hotel. This hotel has a swimming pool, but the hot tub is the main event.
Counts really. Like
it counts if you're doing a couple of lengths, doesn't it?
I don't think it even counts. I don't think that even counts. I think if you're going to say, "Do you go swimming?" It's swimming with the intention of going swimming.
Yeah,
not like there happens to be a swimming pool at this thing where I'm also doing.
I was just wondering to the extent to which you guys swim at all, or I don't really anymore unless I'm on holiday.
I mean, I don't do a huge amount, but that's because like weirdly, like I don't know, swimming uses muscles you don't use for anything else.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really good exercise, isn't it?
Anything else? I mean, like I go, you get in there and you're just like, why does this? Because I used to be an all right swimmer. I swam for ages. Like
I wasn't. I was bad,
but not like in a regimented way. You just swam. You were capable of swimming.
Well, you say sort of not in a regimented way, but I've basically just like there was this endurance, like the last swimming lesson, basically the last one on the list that I could never crack because it involved an endurance swim that I just couldn't quite get the time requirement for.
But I mean, swimming lessons
you did it, but you took too long.
Yeah, it was like a sort of like, pretty advanced level swimming sort of thing. Like, and it's just like, you could never quite crack that.
Yeah.
Because you were like swimming for like half an hour or something ridiculous. And it's like, I used to
probably
get real
do that
close.
with your running stamina now.
Yeah, maybe. But like, I don't know, you say that, but then when I swim, it's like, it's tiring in a way that I don't remember it being from back then, just because it's working stuff I never use. And I haven't got the technique anymore, so I'm struggling to keep my mouth above water and shit like that.
That's what I mean. It's like I've lost all technique if I ever had any at all. They did try to teach me to stop me from drowning if I fell off a boat, which I'm grateful for. I don't think I would drown, but I definitely not comfortable in swimming pools, which is a shame. Really,
it's like the water just goes up my nose, and it's like stop that. That's not right.
Yeah, it's not that fun.
Yeah, well, I suppose I don't have a pair of goggles anymore, so I don't really wear those, and maybe they make a huge difference because like I can't really open my eyes comfortably around chlorinated water. Never have been. So
goggles they make all the difference.
But then goggles suck as well for different reasons.
I could never get them to work. They never had a good seal, I don't think. I would always get water in them.
No, well, you either get water in them or they steam up, or
so you can't see.
That's what you get if you buy cheap ass goggles at school.
That's
what you get when you get like a £2 pair of goggles from Co-op or something.
I guess. But I remember trying like lots of different styles. I had proper Speedo goggles at one point that were like, the sort of tight fitting ones, kind of like just a little bit of foam. And I also had the other ones, which are like the fat bit of rubber around the outside, so like almost steampunk like style goggles. And it's just like, they don't work either. They all suck. Even diving goggles I've had trouble with before, like the big ones. It's like these. Well, is my face just not right?
I think that's what we're heading towards here. Like, evidently something is wrong with Rob's face.
Something wrong with my face when goggles are involved with it.
Well, your glasses weren't that great either.
Did you mean my glasses weren't that great? What are you trying to say about my glasses?
The fitting of them, like you're not.
I mean, I've got wonky,
not straight, right?
But I've got wonky ears.
So so maybe that's partly. Maybe that helps with the goggles.
Can they adjust glasses quite a lot? Like I'm sure.
I mean, they do. Yeah, whenever I get new glasses, they reseat them and do the little what do you call it? The supports under the bridge. I don't know if they have a fancy name, but yeah, they sort of angle all of that and bend them into shape a bit and stuff like that, so they look a little less wonky on my wonky face.
Like the foam is meant to help, but maybe there just wasn't enough for Rob's wonkiness.
The foam and the
goggles.
Well, I can't remember what diving goggles look like. Like, how do they make goggles that actually stay on through diving? That must be a lot of force.
You have to strap them real hard to your head.
Really
That's basically how those work.
You know how VR goggles work?
Yeah, but
like that, but tight.
Right. VR goggles have those crazy straps that are like super wide. Don't think that would work for swimming.
Yeah, I don't know. I
remember them being really thin.
Yeah, they were super thin. They were like a centimetre at most tall.
I don't see why.
You know, I've had like snorkel goggles or whatever. They have like an inch thick ass bit of strap.
Yeah.
So just theoretically imagine the deeper you go down, the more strap you have. Or more straps in general. More than one
imagine
strap.
diving into a pool with the scuba goggles on, because they're not like streamlined. It would be like smack in the face.
Well, that's why you don't dive in forwards, right? When you do scuba, you fall backwards in the water.
Presumably that's why. Yeah.
Also, because you've got like a 10-kilogram giant fucking tank attached to your back as well. That's probably another reason not to go in forwards.
Also important.
You don't want to get crushed between the surface of the water and a tank.
Oh, that was a good sound effect there.
Like
you haven't gone diving, have you, Zeg? Oh, you did?
No.
Did you? No.
I mean, snorkeling on holiday again doesn't count.
I've never done proper diving.
No, I've never done regulated diving.
I don't know if diving's one of those things that I think freaks me out a little bit. Like like I would never be like extreme diving.
Well,
I would want diving where there's like if for whatever reason the oxygen fails, it's like I could just go up and be okay.
Yes, exactly. No chance of bends.
There's enough time to just peg it to the surface, and
you don't have to think about it either.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about bends
about
and like
pegging.
delaying or anything.
I want to be able to panic and get out all right.
And no cave diving.
Definitely never doing that. I'm not going to remotely touch cave diving. That's crazy talk.
Yeah, that's nuts. Free diving.
Free bird. Yeah, I could maybe some seabed diving or conscientious coral reef diving. That might be nice.
Yeah.
Provided you don't destroy any clownfish while you're there.
Yeah, hurry up and do it before they all get destroyed anyway.
Yeah.
You're on a countdown on that front. Right.
You've got lots of places now trying to build new reefs, at least.
Bit of a scale problem.
There's something on the news the other day actually about sinking, like somewhere in the UK. It was in the back of a pub, so I couldn't really see exactly what it was about. But they were basically sinking like statues into the water, and they were because corals like them.
In the back of a pub.
No, I was watching the news from the back of a pub.
Right. Okay. Trying to create an artificial reef in the beer garden.
In a pub, yeah. But they were sending like statues of people down, so it was a bit weird. There's just this like human figures.
Because they just like doing art projects whilst they're trying to do things. Don't just chuck a bunch of rocks down there. That'd be boring.
It's eco art, yo.
Also, if you're going to make it a target to scuba, you may as well make that look interesting as well. In case looking at the actual goddamn wildlife that you're meant to be protecting wasn't interesting enough.
It's going to be one of those things that, like, 1,000 years from now or something, someone goes down there and it's just like, isn't nature amazing? It's just these dudes hanging out.
I mean, that is pretty much everything in human civilization. It's just like in 1,000 years' time, you're going to look at it and be like, what the fuck were we doing?
Luckily, everything's gone online now, so everything will just be gone. I don't think we'll have any physical remnants of all the shit.
Well, no, but the trouble is that, like, the physical remnants that like, now the physical remnants that are like that will be the weird art projects that are specifically incredibly weird on purpose to try and garner attention in the age of the internet.
Oh, I see. So Yeah, you actually have more weird stuff on average.
Yeah,
because all the normal stuff people stop doing.
Because everyone knows about the normal stuff thanks to the internet. Right. So it's like, if you're going to get any attention, you have to go weird. You have to go more weird.
I feel like art went pretty weird before the internet, so I don't know.
Well, yes, it did.
What's really changed there?
The internet, like most things, has probably accelerated the weird. I think that's true.
Probably.
Doesn't take a lot of Googling to find something that makes you raise an eyebrow.
Literally any search ever. Just look at the first page of results. There's bound to be something there that's fucked up.
That you're just like, yeah, sorry, what? Yeah.
Found anything weird recently, or weird enough to actually stand out enough to actually talk about?
Well, I mean, this is part of the problem, isn't it? We're normalized.
Well, yeah, we're hardened to the weirdness.
To the weirdness.
Nothing phases us anymore on the internet.
I had to explain that. I remember explaining to someone who's, I don't know. I guess for the lack of a better description, normal.
Yeah.
That the rules of the internet exist.
No, well, one specifically probably was the important one in that case.
Are there any other
Not
good
rule
ones?
Just one of them.
I mean, the longer a thread exists, it tends to Hitler.
Well, yeah. I forget
Godwin's
what
law.
that is.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what it was before the numbered rules.
Right.
I mean, Godwin's law has been around since like Usenet and stuff.
Yeah.
It? Yeah.
They didn't seem that thrilled by the idea of the rules of the internet.
Well, I mean, that, like, without much context, if we're talking about normal person, it's like that doesn't, even trying to explain that doesn't really make sense because it itself is just like a meme. It's like you're trying to explain why it's funny that the internet has created rules of things that happen on the internet.
What are memes? Has anyone tried to, like, has there been like a serious documentary about memes and like?
I'm sure there has by now.
You reckon?
Several.
Well, the stupid word comes from that Richard Dawkins thing, doesn't it? Well, not originally, but that's where it got popularized.
It comes from a place and then got co-opted into not really the correct usage at all.
At all, yeah.
What was the correct usage?
I don't even remember. It's been so long since I read those articles about the origin of the word. It's similar, but it's not like literally the same.
That was its intensive purpose. News?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, this is a podcast. You can tell that because you're listening to it on using your podcast app.
Using your ears that are involved with your face.
Indeed. It also has a topic, which is the same every week for the past 10 years. And that topic is video games.
Which we haven't even remotely hit yet.
Well, we talked about the internet.
It's
close.
I mean, it's close, but we've skated around it pretty well this week.
I mentioned Rocket League.
Oh,
at some point.
Balls. Okay, maybe not then.
Well,
I was all excited there for a second that we broke free from our shackles of genre.
Is there anything going on in the world of video games? Is there anything to do with Rocket League?
I mean, yes, actually.
Yeah, conveniently.
That's like the one bit of news, probably, that we're vaguely interested in. So, Rocket League have announced that they will no longer do random loot boxes. Because they have one of those classic systems where it's like, hey, pay for a key to unlock this box, and you might get a random item within it.
Or you will get an item, but it might not.
You will get an item, but
one.
it's you don't know which of these items it might be. Which is the system that's been in use since TF2 and Counter-Strike, and since loot box became a thing. They've used that since they introduced loot boxes to Rocket League. But they're replacing it with, theoretically, what is the same system that they use in Fortnite Save the World. Which, I don't play that, so I'm sort of guessing a little here. Which, as far as I understand, is you still get the crates, but you can see what's in them immediately. So the crates can spawn with the sort of random items that they would normally have, but they're like, imagine them like a perspex box. It's like you can immediately see what's in them, but you still need to pay for a key to open them up.
It's just like the random roll happens when the item drops, like a normal random item system.
Yeah.
Except now you also have to just pay to unlock that item afterwards.
Exactly. Which I kind of think is a whole lot fairer.
Well,
but without losing the surprise mechanic that we know and love.
But the trouble is that with that whole system as a concept is that you can't just have one key for that, because you have to then have different rarities of key. Because no one's going to unlock shitty boxes with a full price key. They're going to hold out for the good boxes.
What if they really want that item that's like low rarity?
Well, yes, if they really want a thing, they can get it. But it's like you can't. That's the whole reason that like there is just one key for like a TF2 loot box or whatever.
Yeah, you might be right. Actually, you might create a tiered key system, or that it requires like rare
multiple
boxes
keys.
have like 5 keys.
But that is just the same thing, basically. You're just making different values of key at that point.
Yeah, and then you're not so lucky on receiving an expensive crate necessarily.
Yes, I mean you can't. There's no way to make that system work by having unless you also remove the concept of rarity as a UI element. If it doesn't say how rare the thing is in the game, if you're not classing it as import or whatever in Rocket League, if you get rid of that, then you can have everything be the same key price.
So that would break their trade system, and it would also break the fact that they would have to disclose the odds. Well, I suppose they don't have to because they're a game that's already out. That's other news that we'll come to. But if they ever wanted to do odds exposing.
But they don't have to expose the odds if it's not in a loot box. That's the get around, isn't it?
You reckon?
Because you're not paying to roll the randomness. You're getting the randomness as part of the game, and then you're just paying to get the stuff.
Right, because it's not a transaction.
Yeah.
They don't have to. Yeah, you might be right there as well. That would make some sense.
Because it's not like you have to explicitly tell you the odds of like Diablo drops or anything. Because you're not paying for those.
Yeah. Sneaky.
It's dumb and continues to be dumb. But maybe it'll all go away soon, except not, because this next bit of news is they're making, it's like the first movement on theoretically doing anything about loot boxes at all. Is maybe Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo have sort of agreed that they just want to make it part of their terms of service to have it so loot boxes always have to expose the odds in any game on their system, which is like, wow, the most minor amount of regulation and involvement.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Well, it's a legal requirement in some countries.
Well, sure.
Already.
I mean, that probably also helps.
But this means that they theoretically, the big three, won't allow a game to be published on their platform they won't pass cert or whatever if they deem it to not follow these rules. Now that doesn't appear to affect games that are already out,
and also may not come into effect for like a whole other year at least.
Yeah, something like that. They might be like I imagine Microsoft and Sony will probably hold it back for like next console stuff.
Yeah, I guess.
Like they'll just rope it into the terms of service for that. So it'll be a while till we see this borne out. It'd be kind of interesting because I don't think I've ever come across seeing that ever. Like I don't think I've seen odds for that stuff exposed within the game ever.
I've only seen it for Rocket League's ones because they put in a blog post. It's not in the
right,
game.
It's not in game, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But like, if these terms of services are to be followed, they have to be upfront. I wonder how that applies to games like live service games or games that get updated like Rocket League and things like that. It's like, well, you can't publish your update because your game doesn't pass cert. Like,
what do you mean?
Like,
why wouldn't it then pass cert?
Well, if the game doesn't pass the terms of service if the terms of service change, and they want to then update that game, it's like
then you build the update to include that change.
Yeah, no,
I mean that's just what.
I know what you mean, but like, yeah, would they? I'm just asking, would it apply to updates as well? Or just newly published titles?
I mean, they technically already had the update game specifically for legal things like Belgium and the Netherlands and whatever.
Not for like platform terms of service.
I mean, that's still a legal thing.
To some extent, yeah. It's not like a country legal thing.
But you're still not going to get your shit published if you don't do it, so you kind of have to. It's still the same.
Oh yeah, but if it's already published,
yeah, but then we're talking about patches.
Yeah,
patches still go through cert most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I get the feeling that terms of service for patches can, or at least the cert process for updates can differ from the actual game.
I mean, I'm sure it doesn't differ that much, because otherwise you could do some seriously bad shit with updates.
No, but it's not like if you think about it from Microsoft's perspective, they don't want to have to test the entire game every time like a patch comes out.
Sure. So
it's going to be a weaker process to do an update cert than a.
But they're still going to look at the. I guess the situation there would be that you'd have to fail the certification if it didn't include something, rather than based on what it does include, which is a slightly different process to go through, because you're having to check to see whether.
Well, they used to be like, isn't the rumor like that some of the old Microsoft cert things used to they have rules about loading screens and stuff like that. Like the loading screens have to have tips if you're going to have them.
Yeah.
And they have to have some sort of visual content. They can't just be something that says "and loading."
But that's not like that's an inclusion, not and that's also not a patch cert thing. I guess that would be a base.
That'd be a base game.
Yeah,
cert, yeah.
The first time round.
Which I don't think was 100% enforced anyway, because the number of games I can think of that perhaps had a little spinner in the corner occasionally. It's like, that's the loading screen. Maybe there were some rules about length of loading or something. So that's weird, but I imagine it gets bent occasionally. Maybe a bit of money changes hands. I don't know.
Well, a bit of money changes hands every time there's a cert process.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Loot boxes.
Loot boxes. Still a hot topic in the games industry.
How many have you bought?
I don't know. Like, it's not many if I ever have. Like, because I bought Rocket League keys, but that's for Battle Pass.
Rocket Pass.
Yeah, Rocket Pass, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I think.
Did I ever? I don't know if I even cracked one for TF2. Like even back in the day when they were new. I think a bit of me was just like, I can earn that hat.
Well, I got a few keys at some point in TF2 much later on. Not when they were first introduced. It was more like, hey, I've been playing this game for so many years, I might as well just put in a tiny amount of cash one time, see what I get. And it can't have been more than like 5 keys, I would have thought. And then obviously the 10 from the Rocket League Battle Pass, Rocket Pass. But then I've never had to buy those again, because I just grind out the Rocket Pass and get the 10 back every time.
Yeah, you've always earned enough to carry on.
Thank God they actually made that change. They made it like that.
Yeah, it's very generous of them to do that, but you have to put the hours in to do that. I think I've done it with this pass, because this pass has been long.
Yeah. How was at what level do you think I am in Rocket Pass right now?
Oh, I don't.
Considering how long this has been going on,
kinda.
You have to get to level 100 to get all the keys back, or 110. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think even
70 is the end of the pass, so it'd be 80, 90, 100. Should only be,
because I think I've made it to 100 now.
It's either 100 or 110 to get the keys back.
Yeah.
But
you must be at like 300 or something ridiculous.
Yep, I'm over 300.
Oh god,
this pass has gone on way too long. I mean, it was meant to be like 14 weeks because of the challenges.
You're very much an outlier, like in that.
I don't know.
You played way more of that than like.
I don't feel like I've been playing it that much lately, really.
300 levels.
So they just give levels away for free, practically. You level up practically every game.
No, you don't. Like every couple, every 2 or 3.
Well, I mean, with all the bonuses and stuff, it's very close to every game. I reached maximum well, theoretical. I don't know if it is the maximum any longer. I reached theoretically maximum XP rank now, except there's not actually a maximum. I've got the last of the titles.
Okay.
For the progress, or what I heard was the last one, but I don't know if it changed because presumably now that they've unlocked that to be infinite, they're gonna have to just keep adding stuff to it.
Yeah. We'll run out of the integer address space eventually. Eventually.
Not that I ever use those titles. I just have blank space under my name. That's all I want.
Untitled.
Although some of them are quite tempting.
I do quite like Salt Miner.
Yeah, I mean, that's a classic.
That's a good one. Quite like there to be one that's just like the Fumbler.
Well, there's Tactical Whiffer.
Tactical Whiffer.
Basically
that's pretty good, actually, yeah. Do like that one.
What does that do?
Oh, nothing. They do nothing. They're just titles under your name that appear on the scoreboard and things like that. So you can describe yourself as the Tactical Whiffer. Which is basically what we say when we cock up a shot, but it still works.
That's not a whiff, though.
Well, yeah, you went for it, you missed, and then you faked. It's a fake then.
No, yeah, that's what we call it. We call it fakes. It's like clearly intentional fakes.
Okay, obviously intentional. Yep. That's totally what I meant to do. Yep. Played for.
It's like I think what we need. Even me as well. What we need is like there needs to be one for like a title that means you hit the ball and you were intending it to be a shot, but it didn't actually go in, but it turned into a pass.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of my hits.
Yeah, it's a beautiful pass. Well done, mate. Uh-huh.
Well, it went beautifully to a teammate who could then capitalize on it.
It's like I'm definitely trying to hit it into the goal, but it just slightly misses. But it turns into a pass anyway, so it's all good.
That doesn't really happen in football, does it? Because it's always just a shot.
No, because there's no back ball.
It never turns into a pass.
Maybe off the post, very occasionally.
I guess maybe with a header or something. Occasionally you can nudge it slightly if it's going wide.
Yeah, it has to be like a ricochet, doesn't it, really? Or like a fumbled save or something like that. That's the closest it gets.
Yeah. Oh, that's the Rocket League news.
Yeah, I guess.
League news.
What else is going on?
I mean, I didn't pay any attention to the Overwatch summer games, but that happened.
What's going on with the Overwatch as an esport? Is it doesn't seem to be climbing?
I mean, they've got their own league, haven't they? That Blizzard themselves have been supporting. Although didn't Activision put out a press statement saying they wanted to scale all that back? Like Activision themselves don't want to run esports; they want the other organizations to do it. But then Blizzard were all in running their own. I mean, that still exists. They still do that stuff, but yeah, I don't know. Overwatch, I've never watched any competitive Overwatch, like just because it strikes me as one of those games that just like I don't know how particularly you'd watch it. Like it might be CS, you can just about get away with just because it's relatively simple, right?
Yeah.
Well, but the trouble with CS is it's very difficult to tell like what you're even looking at when it's switching between players, and it's just like it's the same thing in every view. It's just like and you barely can see the gun or anything. Sure. Whereas at least in Overwatch, it's like you can distinctly tell what character you're looking at through.
Sure, but for what team is still a little bit
although
because Overwatch has the bigger problem, that you're always on blue team, right?
Yeah,
like no matter which side you are.
Or when you're playing,
yeah.
No, that would just have to be a special like spectate camera option to make the team colors set distinct.
The esports camera would have to be different. Yeah. Oh, and I think they do get away with that actually because they all have because of the weird way that Overwatch does it, and they run themselves, and they have specific teams that Blizzard have decreed.
Yeah, and they make skins for them.
And they make skins for those teams, so those teams are effectively that colour. Like they are coloured in a specific way.
And it's kind of annoying that they started sort of putting that into Rocket League, where they made skins for specific esports teams.
Yeah, I saw that.
But that you can just buy, so you can have them yourself. But they're not coloured specific. So it's like, oh look, this car is black. What team is it on? Who knows?
Right. I mean, they do that with like. I mean, I guess I understand why it exists, but like, I'm not quite sure I get the buy-in on that sort of stuff. It's like, oh, hey, I'm a Cloud9 supporter, so I'm going to buy Cloud9 shirts and stuff. It's a little bit like football shirts, right?
Well, yes,
but the teams like rotate out so fast in esports. It's like Cloud9 is not always
some of them do anyway.
Yeah, a lot of the sports, like Cloud9's team is not going to be the Cloud9 team 1 year to the next. You know, they're going to be changes, and so it's like, what are you supporting at that point?
But that's the trick, isn't it? Like you're then having to buy more stuff because you're actually supporting a person who's moving to different teams.
Yeah. It's like I can lose track of what Team Kippers is happy with at any given moment, and so does Jam, and like they watch this stuff together, and it's like she will occasionally go, "I thought you liked these guys." It's like
someone moved, someone got in some drama.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's interesting if you love that stuff, but it's almost the exact same reason I don't like club football all that much, because it's just like the club doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. And I guess if you did support a player, you would have to buy different shirts when they got transferred.
Is that? I mean, how much does that happen? I mean, this shows how ignorant I am, because it's a big part of English culture that I don't engage with at all. But like, if you follow a player and they move teams, who follows them? Most people seem to follow teams, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Most people follow clubs.
It doesn't really work. It's because it's a lot of the sports don't have. It's like when we were talking about the classic situation of Rocket League, it's only 3 people, so it's a smaller pool of
that's true.
different people to move around.
So when a change happens, it's a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're following Ipswich or whatever, and they change out a striker or whoever, it's like, okay, that's a big deal, but it's
not that big.
Part of a much bigger machine.
Yeah.
So like I understand it more in football terms than I do esports.
I mean, it happens with sometimes in football where it's like the really big players.
The really big players get followed too.
Like there's just been that recent news story about Wayne Rooney and his gambling shirt number.
Gambling shirt number.
He's sponsored by 32 Red,
right?
And so
just him.
Or
the club?
Maybe the club.
Okay,
but. As part of his move to this new club, his number is going to be 32 on a red shirt.
Oh, wow.
And it's like...
I don't know if I've heard of that happening before.
It's like, it's a bit... Is that subtle or is that dumb?
Oh, but it doesn't matter, does it? Oh,
I mean, it kind of doesn't, but it's like...
And then the news story is like, but they're getting around the laws against advertising gambling to children, because children can buy this shirt, which is basically an advertisement for gambling, except it's also Wayne Rooney's shirt.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure don't 365 bet and things that bet 365 or whatever. They sponsor a team?
Well, there's children's versions of shirts that don't have the gambling stuff on.
Point. Yeah, that is a good point.
I didn't know that they did that. That's interesting.
32 Red, but it's such a lame brand.
Yep, it's a terrible brand.
What team does he play for?
He was in America until now, and now I think he's playing for Derby County.
Derby.
Do they play in red?
I don't actually know.
Because if they played in red and they're supported by 32
well, I mean, I assume they do. I assume for this whole scam to work, the shirt must be red. Scam.
Yeah, how's it going to work if it's just 32? That's not a brand. The number 32. I mean, I suppose some numbers might be brands.
Yeah.
192 or something, or no, what's the...
It's bet 365.
118.
Oh, yeah, 118. Yeah.
Directory inquiries.
Straight through.
But yeah, that's weird. It is weird he's coming back to English football, I guess. Speaking about football for a second, when you go to America, you don't normally come back.
No, that's true. When you go to America, your career's over.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, obviously, Derby is like way lower down than Manchester United.
Sure.
So it is still a downgrade significantly.
It's not Premiership, are they, Derby?
I don't know where they are at the moment.
Is Beckham retired, or is he still playing for like LA Galaxy?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know. I don't think if he is playing, he's probably not playing very often.
We're getting on a bit now, in fairness.
He might have started going into coaching in America.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it'd be quite old for a football player at this point.
I mean, we've definitely reached the point where the already old English players who went to America to continue their career, now they're retiring in America as well.
Yeah.
We've reached, it has been that many years now.
He retired a long time ago, sorry. Just looking. 2013.
Right, yeah. That makes a huge amount of sense to me. Yeah. Don't have quite the longevity in football that they do in like tennis.
No. It's quite impressive though. I mean, I don't really understand how tennis has got to be just as much running up and down.
Well,
yeah, in some respects.
Not quite as much, I would have said.
Maybe not. There's a lot more breaks, I guess.
And you're not running technically as far overall.
That's true. Yeah.
It's very short.
Like pure kilometres.
It's mostly very short bursts, isn't it? Like in tennis. But the matches last hours and hours and hours.
True, yeah, but then does that account for the same amount of distance? I'd say it's probably still in football's favour.
Yeah, you might be right. Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of football is just being in the right place, right? Because you've been running around like crazy.
Yeah.
Continuously moving.
It's a tough little thing if you're doing it properly. Unlike us in the field.
Naturally.
Where we're just in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Because we didn't run there.
Because we don't care. We're having a conversation. While the ball's like hanging about in the other team.
Somehow we've ended up back at the same part of the random station from earlier.
Yep. It's a callback, yeah.
Yep. Back to news.
What else is going on?
Well, there's been some dumb controversies as usual.
Oh, wasn't there some more Randy Pitchford shenanigans at some point?
I don't know if it was was it specifically Randy Pitchford? I don't remember. There's been
wasn't there something he said that turned out not to be true about Borderlands 3 again? I can't remember exactly.
I don't know.
It was a while ago now.
There has been a Borderlands 3 thing and an Epic thing.
Oh, okay.
So then we're going back to the classic pair of dumb stories.
Epic of the week.
The Epic one is like another indie dev who went on to Epic exclusively after being on Patreon. I think this one, not like Kickstarter.
Oh, right, another one of these.
But they did the thing where they went Epic exclusive, so they had to announce it in a news post. But they tried to play it off as a sarcastic news post where they were like, "Oh, we've heard Epic is such an important thing." So they made their post all sarcastic about it. And it's like that just doesn't work. You can't avoid backlash. That actually makes it worse. You can't make the backlash less severe by being sarcastic about the whole situation.
Oh, is it like you're sort of sitting there going, "Oh, I'm pretty sure there's gonna be backlash."
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, woe is us. We're doing it anyway, sod ya. Is what that comes across as.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you can't. That's not a thing that being sarcastic helps with. So yeah, they got shit on quite a lot.
I can see why you would try that though, because especially if you sincerely believe that it's not bad for the industry or anything like that, you're sort of sitting there going like, I don't see what anyone's problem is. Like, we're doing this.
Yeah, but you don't do that by being sarcastic.
Yeah,
you do that by just saying that.
Just being sincere and go like, look, we don't understand what the problem is, so we're doing it.
Yes, exactly. And that I think not only was that post they made already sarcastic, but then they turned the sarcasm up to 11, where they're like, here's some other things you should be worried about instead of the Epic Store, like climate change. It's just like, I think you maybe, not only have you made this place sarcastic, you've gone all the way.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. I mean, they succeeded in some level of comedy.
Yeah, I guess. From an outside perspective. And then the Borderlands news I maybe haven't read this story entirely well enough to totally describe it, and it seems like it's maybe not a fully come out story yet. Like, maybe there's still details to be exposed, but some internet streamer person was well known for posting like leaks and stuff about Borderlands.
Right.
And now into Borderlands 3, he supposedly discovered that there was, in a preview video that was officially released by Take-Two or whatever for Borderlands, there was a moment where it shows a username.
Is it 2K?
Is it 2K?
Or did Gearbox just publish it themselves?
No, I think it is 2K.
Okay.
Yeah, it is 2K. Because they have their logo at the start of Borderlands 2. It's really annoying. So he saw this username in this video, and if you search that username on Twitch, because they're using private Twitch streams internally to record footage. So you search that username through Twitch, and you can see that user. You can't see the stream because it's private, but Twitch automatically updates the thumbnail for the stream.
Right.
So you can basically use the thumbnails to extract like what's meant to be secret information, essentially.
Interesting.
So that's supposedly what this streamer did. Supposedly, I don't know if that's fully 100% how that actually works.
What can you really gain from the thumbnail other than that he's playing Borderlands?
Well, I mean, it updates, so you can see different things happening. You can see parts of the story you're not meant to see yet.
Oh, what, that it has the sort of like, what do they used to call it on Xbox? You know, the rich content sort of thing. It's like he's in the menus right now.
Well, no, the thumbnail, the actual physical picture of the screen.
Oh, sorry. When you said, I thought you meant like the game thumbnail. I thought you meant the little thing that says he's playing Borderlands right now.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the actual thumbnail on Twitch.
Right. Okay.
It shows you the stream. I don't know what resolution those are in. Presumably not very high. But yes, there's that. So that's supposedly what he did. And then also supposedly 2K or whoever, I always say Take-Two, 2K sent private investigators to his house to find out what he was doing because of all these leaks.
Okay.
Supposedly.
I mean, what can they do?
Well,
it's just like
I don't know.
I used the internet, bitches.
Oh, yeah, that does, from this information we've got at this point, that does seem like it's like he was just using it, but maybe there was maybe he was also doing some other stuff.
I mean, maybe some of his he has a source.
Yeah, maybe he also has other sources, not just this Twitch thing, but then the Twitch thing was the part that got reported weirdly.
Yeah, that seems slightly heavy-handed. Especially if, that route is true, because anyone could have done that.
Yeah.
How did he discover that? Was it in the? How did he discover that username again?
It's in one. It was in a video that they released.
Oh right.
Like
just
when you a pop up at
somewhere.
A pop up at some point said this character just picked up an item or whatever.
Right, and then he
searched that through Twitch.
Okay.
Even though it's just a random jumble of letters, because at least they thought of that much. It's not like Borderlands Dev 1 or anything.
Right, yeah, they tried to obfuscate it. Huh. All right.
So yeah, weird Borderlands news still continues.
They're still not ingratiating themselves to positiveness.
No.
Positivity, not positiveness.
So that's that. That's the news, I guess.
That's the news. You watching Evo?
No.
No? Not a thing?
Why would I watch that?
I don't know, it's fun.
Or, I mean, maybe I have watched some Evo accidentally through watching Smash highlights, because those are the videos
probably.
that I watch.
Yeah, there might be some Evo on that. Yeah, I don't know. I watched was it the Soul Calibur 6 finals? That was fun. That was quite interesting. That was actually some of the more interesting stuff to watch, actually, because I tried watching some Dragon Ball as well, and it's like Dragon Ball basically just boils down to them at either side just blocking relentlessly until one player makes a mistake, and then an epic combo happens for the next 30 seconds.
Just like Killer Instinct, basically.
Kinda, yeah. And then and you just wait for that to play out, and maybe there's some tactics involved there, like some subtle ones. It's like, he's only going to use 2 level 1s rather than a level 3 here, and he's going to burn this much meter to prepare for the next thing. Because it's like as soon as the combos happen, the commentators basically know, and that's going to be a kill because they would know exactly how much damage that's going to take and things like that. So I find that a slightly weird watch, other than me marveling at just how good that game looks.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of sat there going, this looks amazing. To the point when Gnome didn't quite agree with me. I don't think. He sort of looked at it and was like, why are they all animating weirdly? And it's like, no,
because that's how they're meant to animate.
Specifically, animating like anime characters. It's like it's a design choice. And I'm like, all right, it looks a bit weird. It's like
it probably looks significantly less weird than the anime.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I think it's because everything moves at 60, except the frames of animation, and so it looks potentially looks a bit weirdly choppy in places, and then something smooth happens, and you're like, so what? A bit like Cuphead, right? Cuphead looks a little odd simply because like everything's animated old school, except for how things move in the scene, which is super slick. I don't know. I thought it was quite interesting watching that. It was the first time I'd properly paid attention to Samurai Showdown as well. A bit of me kind of likes that game's vibe, and that, like, okay, it looks awesome and Japanesey and samurai dem. Yep. which that does a real good job of that aesthetic, which is cool. But it's not. I think I've talked about this before, where like a bit of me likes fighting games that aren't so combo reliant. That, you know, it's all about timing that critical hit or something like that, like finding the opening and just going, bam, there you go. You made a mistake. I've dealt with it. And Samurai Showdown appears to be that. And it's like, and a bit of me was like, I like what you're doing there. Like, I've never played any of the Samurai Showdowns. I've never played like Bushido Blade either, which is supposed to be a more extreme sort of form of this, where it's almost like one hit and you're down kind of thing, which makes sense, you know, swords. But I don't know. It was an interesting watch. It's like I'm not 100% sure it's interesting to watch compared to a game like Soul Calibur or Tekken or some of the bigger hitters. But like from a game that I might want to actually try to play, there's a certain appeal to it. So maybe I'll check it out. Maybe. I'm kind of on a little bit of a cheapskate gamer mode at the moment because I'm going to have to start saving money in real life due to circumstance and my car being a bastard.
What's wrong with your car?
Well, it's been like in the shop like 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Like service and MOT had to happen. That was fine. But like it had a ton of problems that had just crept up over the last year.
Right.
Like, okay, there were the usuals. There were tires that needed doing. There were brakes that needed doing. I suppose this time that the problem was that there was like all of the tires needed doing and all of the brake pads had worn because they all wore at the same time.
Right, all at once.
Like, damn it. Yeah. So that all needed doing. So that was expensive. But I had drive shaft issues. I had potential for an alternator that needed to be changed. There's some other stuff in the engine bay that needed looking at. So it was a pricey one. Needed all that. I had the classic problem where it was like, yeah, we didn't get it all done during the day, so we're gonna have to order a part in. And it's like, great. So I'm driving a still not MOT'd car. It's fine. I had a little bit of time at that point. And it's like still not fully MOT'd car. And I'm gonna have to try and sort out taking it back to you because I'd taken a day off to leave it with them, which was a pain in the ass. And it's like, well, I've got to come back now. And then had that thing where it's like, then I ended up there and it was like, yeah, we ordered the wrong part. It's like, what? So I've been sat here for like 45 minutes while you decide that the part. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they rebooked it and they agreed to do one of those pick up and collect things on the car the next time it went in. So without me having to pay for it. So it's like, okay, great. Okay. That's something. And the part they actually were replacing it with was cheaper than the one they needed anyway, that they ordered in the first place anyway. So it was like, okay, so I'm actually saving a bit of money this way. That's not too bad. But now I've had the classic thing where it's like, it's been less than a week since it was last in the shop. And I've got another problem. I've very clearly got a coolant leak because I filled it up not that long ago,
right?
Because it was complaining, hey, the coolant's low, and I'm like, that's fine. It's been a long time since I last checked this out. I'll fill it up and get some more coolant and put proper coolant stuff, put it in there, and it's like that's not lasted very long. So I'm a bit pissed off that it's been like a week since it was last in the shop, and it was having a service and MOT. And a health check and all that jazz, and no one cocking spot that the coolant was coming out of the thing. And it's like, oh, I'm going to kick up a fuss because it's got to go in again. It's like, I can't have it like this.
Yeah.
So it's like, that really annoys me. I'm not the sort that kicks up a fuss. I'm not.
No,
it's
me either. It's hard to do, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
some people
I
do
hate
it so naturally. You know,
Gnome's way better than
so
I am.
much like out of it. Like, you know, if you're in the right and you make a fuss, then you get good things out of it, and I just don't like doing it.
Yeah, I know. I feel like the bad guy doing it, but it's like,
I know. But if you're doing it, you know, you're definitely not the bad guy, right?
Yeah. I hope not. Otherwise, you wouldn't try it. But it's like,
yeah, exactly.
it doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that sort of confrontation, like trying to convince someone that there's something they need to sort out. Like, I don't know, one of my little Philips Hue motion sensors, or the one I had, broke, and so like having to sort out getting that replaced was a little bit of a pain. It's when it's
something that's like more hassle than like the thing was worth in the first place. That's when that's when it's really galling.
Well, man, that was a faff as well, actually, because it's like, okay, convincing them to do the replacement wasn't for the Philips Hue sensor wasn't actually that bad. They were like, yeah, okay, that sounds a bit wrong. We'll arrange for it to get picked up. But of course, now I'm not working at home. Like actually getting like a shipment properly sent and all that kind of stuff is kind of a pain in the ass for me. So it's like okay, well, that's fine. You can drop it off at a DHL service point, and it will all be sorted. And I'm like, great, no, that's fine. I can do that. There's one not that inconveniently placed. I can sort that out. A week goes by, and I get a call from DHL, like while I'm at work, saying, "Yeah, there's a driver here to pick up your parcel." And I'm like, "Sorry, what?" It's like there's a driver here. We can't find your location. It's like, I sent it over a week ago. What are you doing here? We've got a booking for a pickup. Yeah, it's already gone. What? And they just didn't get it. They didn't understand what was happening. And it's like, that parcel, you've already sent it. I dropped it with you a week ago. And now, to be honest, now I don't know if it's actually been sent or made it to the destination or what. But it's like, there's another faff I have to try and explain to someone on a pay-for customer service line.
Right, yeah.
Hey, you guys have done cocked up again. Leave me alone. Ugh, like modern life is idiotic. And I've got to do.
That'll teach you for buying smart home shit.
Maybe, yeah.
As if it wasn't already enough of a hassle to set itself up when you actually do get it.
Setting it up was a piece of piss. Like the Hue sensors were actually pretty great, other than this one breaking. But yeah, just this whole faffery. Like how hard is it to send something? Yeah, and I got to do car insurance probably this week as well. It's my week off from work as well, and I've got to deal with car insurance. God damn it!
What do you else have you got planned? Fun? Your week off?
I mean, maybe at this point, maybe
car insurance.
I don't know. The car insurance, you've got to do that dance, haven't you? Where it's like you get your renewal through, and it's like, yeah, I'm not paying that. I've got to get another quote from scratch, and then go, why can't you give me that money? And then they'll be like, oh, let me have a little look. Oh, yeah, we can do that. It's like, well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for wasting my time, you tits. Right, rant over. Yeah, we're doing some fun stuff. We're going to Norfolk for a couple of days.
Cool. What, like North Norfolk or something?
North Norfolk, yeah. We're going to Norfolk. And we're staying in a nice, quirky hotel, sort of up that way.
Chromering it up.
Yeah, this is like our kind of like, I'm not really supposed to be spending a huge amount of money at the moment, but like, oh hey, let's
have a holiday.
This is our little extravagance. Like it's not really a holiday, but it's a little something.
It's something, yeah.
For the wedding anniversary, so it's
that's nice.
That's what I'm doing with my break.
Cool.
Ranting. I was supposed to be gliding this morning. That didn't happen because of the wind.
Oh, it was super windy today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how come you were doing gliding? Was that like a Red Letter Day thing?
Kind of, yeah. I got gifted a sort of lesson.
Nice.
I was like, here's your introduction to gliding. So, I'll be getting towed up to a certain height in a glider and then let loose and flying it for a bit.
Oh, awesome.
So that is pretty rad. But it's like, this week's been so windy that it's like, we're not.
They're postponing
we can't do it. Well, the tow plane is out of action as a result of the wind, apparently.
Right.
So it's like it can't get towed up.
Is it rescheduled then?
I'm gonna have to sort that as another thing to sort out.
That's another thing.
add to my list.
More admin to do. Your week off.
I booked my MOT like an entire month in advance for a change. I was like,
nice.
I know it's coming. Yeah. I haven't even got the letter to remind me it's coming. I was like, I'll just get ahead of the curve and book it. And then I realised, like, I should have booked it a week earlier. Shit. So I'll probably still have to go down and be like, is there any space in your schedule to move that like a week earlier? And there probably won't be by now.
Oh, right, because you booked it a week after it expires.
No, it's like, well, I booked it quite close to when it expires, but not super close. But then I was like, oh shit, I'm I'm going to be alone in the house then, and chances are they'll probably try and phone the home phone, and then I won't hear it, and I was just like, shit.
Because your mobile's bought.
Yeah, because I don't have any other phone capabilities. So I'm like, well, I guess if I move it a week forward, that'd be good, but maybe not. So I'm going to have to go down there and see whether they have any slots left. Although, to be honest, the last 2 years, I've booked it well late, and they're like, oh, we can jam it in somehow, so it's probably okay. They usually manage. And the fact that I booked super early might ingratiate me slightly to getting a reschedule.
It is nice that car tax is now at least automatic.
Yeah.
The government has sorted that bit out nicely. Because there's not exactly any wiggle room on car tax. It's not like you can haggle that.
No.
So at least that's one less thing to do.
And you don't have to remember to get a bit of paper and put it in your windscreen.
Oh yeah.
They got rid of that as well.
That is very nice. Some progress.
Some amount of progress.
I've been saying they should just get rid of. This is a bit political, I suppose, but they should just get rid of car tax as a concept and just tax your petrol. There you go. Tax it more, I mean.
Then everyone will be stealing even more petrol than they already are.
Oh yeah, you tax your heavy road users more than your
your light
right
users.
Yeah. And then you don't have to worry about car tax, and then you can save a lot of money.
I don't think that's exactly why car tax exists in that form.
No, I think there's
vague
all
the cars are electric.
There's vague elements of like, oh, hey, car tax exists because we want to track your ass.
Well, yes,
and that kind of stuff. But you could get that through the MOT.
Well, I don't know if you do really.
You could
sometimes I feel like the MOT isn't as official as it should be.
Right. Well, I suppose because it's done independently.
Yeah, because really, when they're like, you have to get your MOT before you can get your tax or whatever. It's on the I'm sure on the back end, it's probably just like a checkbox where it says MOT exists. It's like there's no real information being traded between where you get your MOT and the government, apart from it happened.
I'm wondering if this is the most ranty and least video game related podcast we've ever done.
I'm pretty sure we've had an equally large rant about MOTs on the previous year when we had MOTs.
I guess, yeah. It sounds a lot more grown up.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought.
You've been having MOT since you were like 17, though, haven't you?
Well, sure.
Well,
I've been carring since I could.
Assuming you were the one dealing with it way in that early years. You may not have been.
I probably wasn't dealing with insurance when I was that young. Not until I was like 21, I don't think, because my car wasn't at uni for. Oh no, probably until I was 20 actually. Yeah, then because my car did come to uni with me then, and it's like, right, I got to deal with this stuff now. Don't buy a Punto.
Do not buy a Fiat Punto.
Terrible vehicles.
Rob, what have you been playing?
What's this? A video game, I smell.
The same video game.
The same video game, yeah.
It's getting quite stale and stinky.
It's a good thing I've managed to work my way through it then. I finished it earlier today. In fact, to the wire. Yakuza Kiwami. I finished it, and I remain pretty positive on it, like all the way through. It's like I think as I went through it, it was one of those games where the problems began to highlight themselves a little more obviously as the further through it you get. Like as the AI as the fights get harder, and as the combat difficulty starts to increase, you start to notice that hey, the AI can do things you can't, and they certain moves they have randomly seem to armor up every now and then, and certain moves they have can randomly have different effects, or the way they dodge seems to be a lot more artificial than perhaps it feels like you can dodge, that kind of like the way they circle around you and stuff like that. There's elements of that where it starts to feel a little bit like, okay, this is quite frustrating, and the rules aren't quite so balanced, because a bit of me was playing it and it's like this. I mean, it feels good enough that you can sort of it feels a bit like a fighting game, right? Like a proper one-on-one fighting game, because a lot of the fights are one-on-one, and it's just
indeed.
so there's a certain to and fro that generally feels pretty good. There's a certain amount of pattern recognition and learning your enemy's moves and learning when to strike and when to hold back and when's a good idea. Just like let them do their combo while you run away for a bit, and it doesn't. But yeah, when you strike and you just get this white flash of armor around the enemy, and you're like, well, balls, their move's still going to activate. Like I haven't interrupted them. Because for some reason they've armored up throughout this attack, and it doesn't always armor up through this attack. So I don't know if I should ever attack through this attack. Can I ever rely on interruptions? Yeah, but you can't. I couldn't figure out a pattern to it. And it's I've done enough fights against Majima now to sort of notice that like he's one of the characters that seems to have these rules and that I can't fathom. And it's like, and I've probably fought him like so many times at this point, and I still can't work it out. That it's
just from watching you play it a bit, considering that you fight him a lot,
so much, and increasingly much as it goes on. Like towards the end, like Majima is the guy I'm fighting more than the goons on the street.
Even though he does like have different forms and stuff, but like for him specifically, they maybe shouldn't have given him quite so many health bars. Considering how many times you fight him.
He is the one character that I've seen where he has the maximum health bar. By the time you reach like triple S Majima rank, like which is the highest you can go, like he has like 6 full health bars or something like that. And those fights can get long.
Seems really kind of unnecessary for that guy specifically who you're already fighting a ton.
Yeah. It gets ridiculous. But it kind of makes sense because like he's supposed to be the guy that's training you up to be the strongest you can.
Sure.
So he has to be the strongest rival. To the point where after you've like fought him a bit, like nothing else, like to the level I had, nothing else in the game is as much of a challenge as Majima. Like the end boss, although dramatic and stuff like that, and relatively difficult to actually land hits, he didn't have a lot of health compared to Majima, so you only had to hit him a few times, really. I did the thing where I mostly max leveled. Well, I leveled out most of the ability trees like a long, long time ago, but it was just the Dragon of Dojima stuff that I had to engage with Majima and Komaki to actually level up. So I was doing that stuff quite a lot, and by the time you're getting close to maxing out Dragon of Dojima, that style gets so overpowered. Like your general punches end up being way stronger than any of the other styles. You gain evasion ability and counter options that the other styles don't offer. One of which is incredibly powerful. The Tiger Drop. If you read any FAQ, and which I have done a few times, they all say the best quote I read was, there are 2 styles of combat in this game: before Tiger Drop and after Tiger Drop. And they're not entirely wrong. Once you have the Tiger Drop ability, which you basically stand there and wait for someone to come at you, and if you press triangle at the right time, you do an incredibly damaging insta-punch against them, and you can pretty much use that almost at any time, provided you get your timing right. And it's, occasionally boss characters like Majima and stuff will armor against it, but you'll still do the damage. So it ends up being quite ridiculous, and you've got some other options, and it makes I guess playing into the game's story that I kind of like about the Dragon of Dojima style anyway. Like by the end, you've regained the strength you had from 10 years ago, and so it kind of makes sense that if you put the effort in, that combat style becomes ridiculously powerful. But you do have to put some work in, and this is where I think I started mentioning this last time, that the problem with the Majima Everywhere system is a lot of it is random. How you encounter Majima and how you how he appears in the world and things like that is randomized, but abilities are locked behind meeting him in certain conditions. So there was a really early skill that I still didn't have because I just hadn't met Majima in his slugger form, just casually in town for like hours upon hours upon hours. So I couldn't do heat actions, which is one of the core combat components in the Dragon of Dojima style, until pretty much the end of the game, because I just hadn't seen him in that form in a certain way. And it's like, that's quite annoying, because the moment I got that, I was able to progress a lot further. A lot of the fights became a lot easier because I could use the abilities that required heat energy and things like that. And it's it has those limitations at times where it's just I'd rather not rely on random. I'd quite like the game to like, oh, you're clearly waiting. You clearly need this ability because it's low in the tree and it's quite an important one. Oh, why don't I skew it so you see that guy? Rather than giving you forms that don't actually get you, that you won't gain much from. It's like, yeah, perhaps they should have tuned that a little bit. But hey, that system's generally very good. I did enjoy it quite a lot. Like, pretty much every encounter from Majima is great. Which makes me excited for Yakuza 0, because I think Majima's one of the playable characters.
So it's like, what's your plan? Are you going to play?
I'm going to have a break. Like, I've put 50. I've put like 50 hours into Kiwami, so I'm gonna play something else for a while. But
do you have any interest in what is it? Judgment?
Yeah, I think it looks interesting. It does look interesting. It's a different take, like, because obviously you're a different character and you're coming at it from a different angle, and it's still set in Kamurocho, so it's still the same environment and things like that. But I've watched reviews and footage of it and things like that, and it looks similar but different enough that it still seems intriguing. Because I don't know, I like their cheesy storytelling. I like their soap opera style. Although I will say that, like, by the end of it, I was getting a little lost with the number of twists between the various Yakuza families and alliances and what have you, and they were all trying to play off each other, and then pretty much everyone at the end was coming like, I knew you were doing this from the start. This was my plan all along, and it's so convoluted that, like, you can't help but just raise an eyebrow and go, really did you? All of this was planned, was it? And you're still gonna die, and like you've only turned up now to have a fight at the end. You haven't been involved in this story at all, and now you're here. That was your plan, really?
Genius plan.
Yeah, just it's so and you know, some classic moments where it's like, oh, the main characters should have all died right about now. Yeah, but they're all fine. You know, the person that needed to die died, but with the guys right next to them being, no, we haven't got a scratch, we're good. There's a lot of moments like that. It's really dumb, but I kind of love it. Yeah, so I'm definitely interested in playing the other games. Like, I think when I do play Judgment or Yakuza 6, they changed graphics engine for those to the point where, like, I've got used to the clean 60 frame rate you get out of Kiwami and Zero.
Sort of
they've upped, absolutely, they've upped their fidelity a lot, but it runs at 30, and it's like, I don't know, I don't know if I want to make that sacrifice. Like, I'm quite happy with how it looks right now, and it's not the best looking game by a long shot, but it's like, it's that Sega feel, and it's like they've moved away from that Sega feel in 6 and Judgment.
A sort of bloodline all the way from sort of AM2 kind of stuff.
Kinda, yeah. It's definitely got that. There's just some really stupid stuff in there that is just like, that's such a throwback that you're like, yeah, all right, you're still making games like this. And I love that, and I kind of don't want that to change, because it's just this game feels retro in the right ways when it wants to. It's like and that makes sense because it's it's a remake, I guess, but it's a cool thing. It's a it's a little shame that, as I say, that the pacing was a little off towards the end, I think it suffers a little bit from, as I think about it, like, it suffers a little bit from the Red Dead problem, in that there's a lot of stuff in there that is not worth engaging in. Like, there's so many, like, mini games. It's like, you want to go play competitive mahjong? Yeah, you can. You want to spend a ridiculous amount of time at a blackjack table? Yeah, you can.
But why?
Yeah, there's kind of a but why to a lot of it.
It's nice to know it's there, but the thing about Red Dead was, like, all that stuff is there, but, like, you don't. There's enough. You don't actually do it, do you? Or maybe you do once, but I mean, yeah,
you try it out, you have a look and see what it is, and it's like, none of that stuff is done with clear, with the fidelity, obviously, that a Red Dead tried to do it,
and it's like,
but it's still like I don't know. I don't really want to go play CeeLo or. Although I suppose it's the first time I've actually tried to play competitive mahjong, and good God, that game is complicated. I still don't understand what I'm doing. I lose every time. It's like on the surface, it's fairly simple, but it's got a lot of rules. It's not like mahjong puzzle tower things; those are nice and easy. But this is like mahjong solitaire or whatever it's actually called. But yeah, competitive mahjong, boy, what ridiculous game that is. Anyway, yeah, it's got a lot of that stuff, but I don't really care for all that much. But some of it's interesting. Like the Pocket Stadium, like the little pocket car racing thing they have in there where you're supposed to put parts on your car and then you set it loose on a plastic track to see if it beats your rivals. It's like that ends up actually being somewhat engaging for a while you you have to try and figure out what customization, what combination of equipment on this car is going to make you win the race, and certain combinations will work better, and if you get it slightly wrong, your car's either going to be too slow or will fly off the track. And it's like, oh, that's actually kind of, I don't know, there's something to that. But again, that goes on perhaps a little too long than it needed to. There's perhaps a little too much to that than there should be. I think some of it outstays its welcome, I guess is what I'm getting at. Some of it like was just a little bit too bloated. They could have scaled back quite happily, and still made a long and very satisfying games. There's pool, and there's a terrible billiards and pool simulator in there that's actually not very good at all.
But they got to put it in there.
But they put it in there, yeah, and you can, and there's darts
Nico,
as well. There's freaking darts.
GTA
and bowling, yes, you can actually go. And bowling, yes, you can actually go bowling. And that's okay, I suppose. That's a relatively, it's what you expect a bowling sim to be.
At least they're not constantly ringing you up trying to get you to go bowling.
No, they're not. I got like one email from Majima saying, "Let's roll."
Let's roll.
And that was about it. That's kind of pretty much all I've been doing the last 2 weeks. Just trying to really. Oh no, that's a lie. Wipeout a Mega Collection came out on PS Plus.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been catching up, playing a bit of. Was it Wipeout 2097 or whatever the?
Which one? The PSP, the like weird Formula One kind of one.
I don't know if it's Formula 1 or what, but like it's the one that's sort of like the prequel, like the earliest one in the Wipeout season. Yeah, so I've been going through that campaign.
Because that feels quite different, I would say.
It does, yeah. I haven't quite worked my way up to the faster speeds yet, so I'm not getting that Wipeout rush, and it's quite easy at this point. I haven't basically unlocked anything. I'm still, it's you got to do the slow grind in these games to work your way up. But it's quite a nice looking thing. It's not graphically, technically amazing, but 4K 60 holds some power.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Like true native 4K 60. It's quite nice.
Especially probably the tracks in 2048 or whatever it is are the nicest looking, because they're not. It's just New York, isn't it? Like with
it's interesting it's interesting because they're like those. They like unlike the other Wipeouts, so these tracks aren't purpose built. They're kind of retrofits around cities and things like that. So there's a lot of multiple paths and a lot of stuff just on the track. The tracks are quite complicated, which I don't know if is a good thing or not, because like the visual style at times makes it actually kind of hard to see some of the obstacles and some of the turns, and the boost pads on the floor don't glow quite as much as they normally do.
They're not as obvious, are they?
They're relatively hard to spot. So it's, I don't know. I find it interesting. I like the sound design and like all that stuff. Like when you hit the boost pads and you get the sort of like with surround sound on, like the sound suddenly shifts to the rear when you hit the boost, so it's like woof every time you hit them, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
It does some of the classic music warping and things like that when you're in the air, and it's like all that stuff's still cool. And the general style of Wipeout shines through as it should.
It'd be so cool if it could like do the music warping and stuff on like just your Spotify tracks or whatever.
Oh, that would be so cool.
Because it doesn't have all of the awesome classic licensed music, but there's some great playlists on Spotify that you can just play.
Yeah, I'm not sure it even has the same soundtrack that HD and Fury had, which is a little bit disappointing. Because
it's always the hardest part, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of the tracks specifically from Fury are brilliant.
It's annoying because you just want people to like re-release like Tony Hawk's 2 and 3 or whatever
with the original soundtrack,
but it's just never going to happen.
No, it's so difficult. Well, they're not going to put the money into acquiring those licenses again. Even though you'd think those licenses would be cheaper to acquire now.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
I guess it's getting them all together.
Probably does cost quite a bit to do a soundtrack like that. But
you can run in a cyclone.
Yeah.
Triple overdose, then with the zone. Wipeout was all the Cold Fusion stuff, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Cold Fusion and some Chemical Brothers and Paul Van Dyke in Wipeout 3. There were some highlights there. Had Noisia in Prodigy. Fury that I'm a huge fan of. Yeah, there's some Prodigy. I think Prodigy actually is in. There might be a Prodigy track in the Mega Collection.
Oh, that's good. You could have one.
But yeah, that thing seems all right. Seems alright.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good to be able to play Wipeout, right? And on a big TV.
Man, it's like it's been quite a while since I've played Fury on PS3. So like picking it up again, I'm just like, oh yeah, Wipeout's great. Like it's really great. Why the hell haven't they made another Wipeout? Come on.
I guess they've kind of done it though, haven't they? I mean, and the studio's gone, so
yeah.
The studio tried to make another Wipeout and failed.
The studio made Pacer, as it's now called, so we'll check back in with that at some point. If that's actually become good. Last time I ranted about it on the Steam forums, someone actually said, you should try it now, it's better than it was.
Yeah, okay.
So, we shall see. I think I was shouting the virtues of Redout at the time, saying, hey, Redout's one of the better ones.
Also not the best comparison, though.
No, but Redout is one of the better recent future races.
It seems to be so hard to get the feel right.
It is, yeah. It's a super difficult thing. What was it? It might have been on the forums of Anti-Graviator or something where I was talking about how to make this game work. Because it just sort of didn't for me. That didn't land right either. And I've sort of fallen off grip, even though the recent updates seem for the best. Like that grip has never grabbed me. It hasn't got its grip on me.
Well, that was a different kind of game, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's not like a proper anti-grav racer. It's not quite the same, but it's a future racer of sorts. But didn't really work for me. Yeah. It'd be nice for Nintendo to put out an F-Zero.
Yep. That's where this is all going.
Nintendo/Sega or whoever.
I mean, at this point, I kind of just want anyone to try with Nintendo's blessing. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Amusement Vision aren't a thing anymore, so it's going to be a bit. You can't recreate that same F-Zero GX magic, I don't think. But hey, all of the F-Zero games have a certain brilliance to them, so
Agreed.
It's like Nintendo just overseeing another one of those, I think is almost guaranteed to come up with the goods.
Guaranteed.
Although, Star Fox Zero did happen, I suppose. And that was a platinum joint, so anything can happen.
I don't know. It's hard to tell if it's definitely gonna, if it's not gonna happen if it's gonna happen or not, isn't it? Because it's like
it's weird for them to sit on an IP like that for so long,
especially the way they've been churning through all the rest of them.
Yeah, they're even bringing back Metroid of all things. It's like that's never been a huge. I don't think Metroid's ever been a massive seller for them, has it?
But Metroid has existed more frequently than F-Zero at this point.
That's true. That is true.
Like 3 wasn't that long ago, relatively speaking, compared to F-Zero.
Yeah, I suppose in the same space of since F-Zero GX, there have been 3 Metroid games on main consoles alone. That's even if we're ignoring the crappy DS spin-offs.
Yeah.
Well, apart from that Metroid 2 remake, that's supposed to be good.
Yeah.
Man, F-Zero needs some love. Yeah, I'm never going to stop saying it until it happens. Oh, hey, if they put out... actually, shout out to Fast RMX, because that's the closest we've got to an F-Zero game for a long time. If there's another one of those coming, I will be very happy.
Well, you would think that would just, at this point, that's got to be what they do.
Yeah, because Nintendo got behind Fast Racing Neo in a fairly big way. I think they sort of realised that there's like, oh, hey, this is like F-Zero.
And now they have even more literal precedent of, like, Cadence of Hyrule and all that. Where
Yeah,
it's like,
sure.
just give the license to an indie studio, who cares?
If they gave F-Zero to the studio that made Fast RMX, problem solved. I want to play some Fast now.
I'm sure you do.
Fast was excellent. Terrible name, but good game.
Right, it's time for you, Zeg. What have you been playing?
Well, I played some Smash Bros, I guess. Also immediately before this podcast, but also in general.
Yeah, because Hero's out.
Because the Hero came out. The generically named guy.
Yeah, generically named Dragon Quest dude.
Yep. And he's a hella overpowered and unnecessarily complicated.
Is it a Bayonetta all over again?
Yeah, pretty much. But almost in exactly the same way. Which is like everything's slightly too complicated and just generally overpowered anyway. Maybe not as complicated as Bayonetta with the way you have to play Bayonetta with, where like unlike the rest of Smash Bros, Bayonetta actually has combos. And there's actually things that you have to think about in that aspect to continue a string of hits. But the Hero just has a lot of like always too many different options and too many like things that do different things. Because like almost all of his moves are like charge moves. Like even his up B, his recovery move is a charge move that has 3 different levels.
Wait,
depending
really?
on how long you charge. It's like like Diddy Kong, I guess.
Right, but does that affect the height of the recovery?
Yeah, it changes the height of the recovery, but it's in like 3 distinct steps.
Interesting.
Rather than like Diddy Kong, where it's like however long you charge it, it's just how far the barrel goes. But there's that, and then his like neutral B like projectile magic, that's a charge move. And then his other
That's kind of okay though. I don't.
Well,
mind
yeah,
those.
that's just like standard. There's always one of those.
Yeah.
But then his other, I think it must be side B. His other side B magic, that's also a charge move.
That's a lot of charge.
So basically, 3 out of the 4 of his B attacks are charge moves, and then the down B is the one that brings up the goddamn menu, and then you have to navigate a menu to choose which of the special powers you're going to use, and that menu is randomized, so you have to perceive what's on that menu before you can even just select it.
Oh, that's amazing. It's totally impractical, but amazing. So is that random you were talking about earlier? Yeah, okay.
Why everyone's considering banning from Pro Smash, get him out of there, because they already don't like Game & Watch and his 9s. So not really. People are okay with that.
Yeah.
But having this whole fucking command menu thing, and also just some of the shit that you can do with that command menu is kind of overpowered in itself. Like there's just, one of the command menu moves he has, it's basically sort of like the death scythe where it will just kill you, except it's random based on the enemy's percentage of damage. So it can just totally kill you at like 20.
A bit like Final Fantasy Death.
Yeah.
Like level death.
Pretty much.
Huh.
You just die sometimes. It's like people definitely don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that rubs me up the wrong way a bit. I can understand that one. Interesting, but I don't think I'd want to play it against it, especially.
No.
And you'd be like, what just happened?
yes, what just happened might be one of the problems with that. Where he's just like, he's got like 30 different moves in that command menu, and they all do different things.
Are they really like what other things like we got in there?
And literally one of those command menu options is just a random effect command. So within that random, there's also another layer of random where you can just like, sometimes you'll get big, sometimes you'll be slow. It's just like, no one's actually going to use that in competitive, of course, because
that's
that
quite
would be
funny.
ridiculous.
So it's like an item, a random item.
Yeah, it's like you just get a random item, except it's the effect rather than the item.
Right. Oh, that's pretty funny.
No one's actually going to use that in competitive, but there's a lot of other ones where it's like, there's that the instant kill is the main one that everyone doesn't like. There's one that just lets you recover from anywhere. You just teleport back onto the middle of the stage.
Wow. But that must be really tricky in the heat of the moment.
Well,
right?
yeah, you have to be like going into your command menu and hoping it's there, and if it's not there, you have to like close and reopen that command menu to re-roll before you fall off the bottom of the screen or whatever.
Right. So you can't like just like, it's not just that every command is there and you have to dig. It's like there's a random assortment.
Yeah, there's only four commands in that window, and it's randomized every time you open it.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, okay. I imagined it was like quite a complex nested thing.
No, it's not like a tree. That would be way too complicated. But yeah, there's that move. There's two different versions of what is essentially the Wii Fit Trainer's power-up deep breathing thing.
Okay.
One where it is basically just deep breathing. You just get strong for a while. Right. And one where it's sort of like the effect of Incineroar's Revenge, where your next attack just gets strong.
Okay, yeah.
And then, I almost forgot, but on top of all this random, he also just has random critical hits on his smash attacks.
Wait, what?
So sometimes you just do a crit and it does more damage.
Oh, boy. Well, okay, I kind of don't mind that so much, but like if it was not a ridiculous effect, if it was a bit
it is kind of ridiculous though,
right?
I think I've seen like
it occasionally goes
yeah, like it is that.
Oh man.
But like I think I've already seen a clip where someone the person playing hero comes back spawns in from being dead. The enemy is on like 20% health. He just forward smashes, he gets a crit, and it just kills the enemy.
Whoa.
From like 20 with just a forward smash. It's like, that's kind of ridiculous.
That's a bit much. Yeah. Yeah, they're going to have to balance that. At least they've been relatively more proactive, I think, this time in balancing.
Sure, but I don't know if you can balance this character not without a bit of an overhaul. Yeah, there's too many like nested things that make it so ridiculously.
Well, at least it's interesting.
Well, that is the thing about it. It is a very interesting character. Yeah. It does have a lot of content, I guess you'd say, built into this one character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just maybe not good at a competitive.
Yeah.
Or maybe too good at a competitive, like with other words.
Not someone you necessarily choose. For us, it might be fun, right? Like with the way we play.
Yeah.
I still think we're in the minority, to be honest, like the way we do it.
Pretty much.
I did play some Smash over the last couple of weeks, like with someone I hadn't really played Smash with before. And they were like, yeah, we play 5 stock. I'm like, 5 stock? Okay. It's like,
at least play 3. 5 takes too long.
Yeah. We were playing it 4-player as well. Okay. 4-player, 5 stock.
I was maybe that takes even longer.
Which is even more random, I suppose.
You just die quicker,
Yeah, you could stuff is like it softens the blow a little bit of like something odd happening that you could like, or some 4-player madness happening. But they didn't have any of the DLC while I was playing it, so it's like a hero was out at that point, and I'm like, oh yeah, we can play as hero. It's like, yeah, we got it.
No,
like, all right.
Disappointing.
Yeah. So I still haven't played it, but I imagine we will later.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Speaking about things we're going to play. And yeah, so that's that. Wait until
Banjo.
Yeah, wait until whenever that is in autumn, which would probably be, I don't know, November. I'm going to hazard a guess and say it's going to be quite late in autumn.
Yeah. There's 2 more characters still to announce.
Yeah. When are we going to get the next one of them? When's the next big event that Nintendo could announce? I guess they just do direct, so it's like whenever.
They might turn up at TGA.
I guess.
It'll be a whole year since Smash released.
Oh, yeah, I guess if they want to do an anniversary thing.
Yeah.
But that'd be December, right? So.
Yeah, maybe sort of mid to late November. So maybe when Banjo launches, they'll be like do a crossover with and this is the next character.
I mean, that would be the obvious thing to do. But we thought they were going to do that with Joker, and they didn't really.
No, that's true.
They waited until E3, which made more sense, I guess. So there's that. There's Smash Bros. And we already briefly mentioned I played Rocket League, as I tend to. As tends to happen.
Yeah.
And I still couldn't prevent myself from playing on a Friday. And then,
no, Lemon Day.
Yeah, then got annoyed by lemons. Actually, I also played on Saturday, and I was like, is this better? No. This is equivalent to Friday. Everyone's still drunk.
I can attest to the fact that I was a little bit drunk on a Saturday. So yeah, that follows.
And then, I mean, basically all I played was what I said I was going to play last episode. I just played a ton of Oxygen Not Included. Now the launch patch happened.
Launch patch, version 1.
Yep.
It's out.
It's new stuff.
It's out.
New stuff.
It's game of 2019.
Yep, that also added to the list.
Add it to our ever tiny list.
But yeah, the new, obviously I was more interested in the new stuff because I've already played the game quite a lot. But like, it's weird. Like, some of the new stuff seems sort of like too easy, but then I've just played the game a lot, so I know what I'm doing. That kind of helps. But in there's certain things where it's just like, why is this like this? Because it seems too easy. Like when you dig all the way down to the bottom of the map and there's the oil biome where you get oil. That's sort of, I guess technically that's sort of mid game, but it's a little more like late mid game, I guess. Moving towards the end game. But when you get down there, now there's a new resource that spawns in the oil biome, which is lead. So it's just like, it's another metal. And at first I was like, oh, it's just another metal. And maybe it has some different thermal properties and that kind of stuff. Because everything, all the elements have different properties. I was like, okay, so what can you do with lead? But it turns out that when you get lead on the map and you mine it, it comes out as what is classed as a refined metal, not an ore. Which means that you're basically getting free refined metal. Because not like when you're doing like power cables or the higher powered power cables, you need refined metal. So normally you dig up the iron ore, you run it through the refinery, which generates a shit ton of heat. You get the iron, and then you use that for your cabling. If you just go and mine lead, you're just getting refined metals for free, so there's no refining step, and there's tons of it.
Right, yeah, so you don't need to worry about heat so much.
Well, apart from going into the oil biome, I guess, but hopefully you've sealed that off with some kind of door system.
Right.
But it's just like there's just tons of lead down there. It's really dense, so you get like a lot of it per tile as well. And it's just like, wow, this is just free cabling.
But how much work do you have to put to get to that point, though, in fairness?
I mean, you could just dig straight down and that's pretty much it.
Oh, right.
It's not even that difficult technically if you're not too worried about the heat leaking out and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of weird to me, but I guess it is sort of mid-game, and it is just a matter of like the balance of you're not having to refine it. You're not having to introduce this extra heat and occupy time to basically just get metal. I mean, I suppose technically the other way to just do that is just to go to the space layer and just pick up all the iron that just comes out of asteroids and meteorites all the time, because that's pre-refined as well. That was the old way to get basically free refined metal. So there's that. But yeah, there's several other things where it's just like, this balance seems like it's a bit easy. Like there's one of the new biomes has a new creature in it, this little sort of rat thing that just wanders around. But well, I guess it's a rat squirrel, because it picks up like seeds and plants them in the ground, like a squirrel does and buries the seeds. But the thing about that is that when it plants the seed and the plant grows wild, basically plants growing wild grow for free. Like they don't require any resources. But they grow like 4 times as slow.
Right.
But for free. So if you can get one of these like creatures to just wander around an open area of the map and just plant a bunch of plants, you're just getting free stuff. So it's like, that's kind of a weird balance.
Can you trap it?
Well, yeah, you can enclosed in a room with some doors,
and then just chuck some seeds out.
Yeah, that's basically what I did on one of my bases, because there's also a new plant that like consumes carbon dioxide and releases oxygen, which you'd think would be what all plants do, but it's just this one specific plant. This is the first time a plant actually does that in this game.
Amazing.
But yeah, I was like, I could plant those plants in an actual farm plot, but then I'd have to spend water to keep them alive. Whereas if I just dump these seeds on the ground and let this rat thing plant them, it's free. They're as quarter of as effective, but it's free. I'm not spending water. So basically my base, I've never had to build like a carbon scrubber, because the bottom area of my base just has all these plants in that just absorb all the carbon dioxide as it goes down there. Enough that I haven't had to worry about it. So yeah, the new stuff is interesting, but to me seems easy. But conversely, some of the things that aren't easy is the new map generation. Now that they've sort of made it, because I played that ice map before and I talked about in the beta.
Sure.
Now that they've sort of made that an official system where there's like 9 different types of asteroid that you can start on, and they have different biomes available and different other conditions. I've played some of those, and some of those are quite difficult. That's for sure. I played the new ice asteroid, except it's not what I thought it was going to be. Because previously, the ice asteroid was just the ice biome. The whole asteroid was just ice, and you had your little starting pocket in the middle. The new ice asteroid, it has most of the normal biomes, so like the slime biome and the acid biome and all that stuff. And
still have a very slime biome.
And some of the other new biomes, like the forest biome or whatever, it looks mostly like a normal map, except the entire map is just, the temperature is just set to like -20. So all of the new biomes that would normally have their own specific temperatures, like the caustic biome is normally about 40 degrees, and like the forest biome is like 20. Everything is just -20. So anything that would be in those biomes that can't survive at -20 just doesn't exist. And then obviously your starting area is this tiny pocket of like heat, and immediately the cold just starts coming, and then you have to basically rush insulation, because otherwise you won't be able to grow any food because all the heat goes out. So it's sort of the same, but not quite the same. And actually arguably more difficult, because in the old version, the ice biome was sort of separated by a impervious wall, whereas in this one, the cold just comes for you immediately.
Yeah.
And there's also... Yes.
Frostpunk not included.
There's also the hot equivalent of that, where the entire map is just hot.
Right, yeah.
Which is probably actually way more difficult.
Yeah.
Keeping a little bit of heat in to grow crops is quite easy, but getting enough heat out to grow crops is quite a lot more difficult, and more processes need to be involved. So that's the map I've mainly been playing, the heat map. That was it was like you had to rush for insulation to prevent a lot of the heat getting in, but also rush for cooling technology, which luckily, I mean, I guess I kind of cheaped it a little bit, but through the random printing pod delivery, I got like a bunch of ice, and there's a machine, the ice fan, that you can feed ice into, and it cools the area around it down slightly, very slowly, not very effective. But the fact that I had any ice available at all, because there's also an ice machine that you can run power into to make ice.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Which basically means you can sort of transfer heat, because the ice machine makes heat but makes ice, and then you take that ice and use the ice fan to make that area cold instead. So you're sort of moving heat in a very manual labor kind of way. So that's how you're meant to do that. But the fact that you got ice through the printing pod means you don't have to have the ice maker part of that. So it's essentially just coldness for free. So that's how I survived for a while. But then I was like, okay, I have to rig up a pipe system up to the top. Because I sort of realized what people were complaining about in a thread I was reading about the nerf to the plants that absorb heat and the various new map biomes. Because realistically, if you haven't got an ice biome to dump heat into, like this hot map where everything's hot, there's only like 2 ways to get rid of heat. And that kind of sucks, because it's like a very limited option. You have the steam engine, which is like the late game way of getting rid of heat. You just pump the heat into a bunch of steam, and then the steam engine deletes the heat as it creates electricity. And then the slightly more early game option is to vent to space, which is what I ended up having to do on this map, where I basically rushed a ladder up to space and then built a little automated system where you just fill a room with like ethanol, mainly because ethanol is basically free because that comes from trees. You can refine the trees and turn it into ethanol, and there was just trees all over the place. I was like, oh, free, that's just free resources, so I'll just use that. I don't mind wasting it by pumping it into space. Fill a room full of ethanol, vent the heat into there until it gets to a certain point, and then just open the door and let it waft away. So that's what I had to do initially. But now I'm all steam engines, and it's like, admittedly, there was still, some element of solving the puzzle where I had to iterate this design several times, and like the first one I made has just broke because it's not actually correctly configured. So I'm now actually having to rebuild that. I was like, it's going to break eventually, and then it did. And then another one that I built, that one started to take damage, and I'm like, oh yeah, that I can see where I've cut that up. But I think I finally got a design where it's like, this can't possibly fail, and now I can just build this design over and over.
Famous last words.
Yeah. So there's that base is. It's been quite slow at the start, getting through the heat phase, but now my base is starting to cool, and I'm like, okay, now I've got this steam engine design. Now I can just replicate that wherever I need cooling, and that's more or less. This map is now stable, so I'm thinking about the space situation.
Right, see what they really need to do to solve the heat problem. Apparently, is have a few fights. And then
dissipate your heat.
At critical moments, you press triangle to perform a heat action.
Yep. But yeah, the fact that there are basically...
And then the Yakuza aren't included.
Yes. The fact that there basically are only those two options for getting rid of heat. Now that I've perceived that problem due to this map being full of heat, it's like, that does kind of suck. I feel like there could be slightly more interesting ways to deal with that.
Hot tubs.
Although also it would be nice if there was a slightly more like... I don't know if you call it like built-in way to vent to space, because having to build this whole like automated system with all its like little triggers and latches to open doors and stuff at certain temperatures, I mean, that's kind of a nice puzzle in some ways, but I feel like you could just maybe have a more early game version of that where it's just like a building. Right. Where you just put down a building that absorbs heat and then vents shit out into space.
Yeah, absorbs it into some nearby rocks or something, and then just
or you just feed it some kind of material.
Yeah. Something to automate it a little nicer for you.
Yeah, at least in the early game.
Yeah,
like how the ice machine is the early game cooling.
It's not hugely effective. You can build your own that's much better, but
yeah,
that seems to give you the idea.
Yeah, that too. Sort of make it more obvious that there is another option than just the steam engine.
It's just the player that this can work.
But yeah, and then I haven't yet played, but I did briefly look at the even more difficult map than the heat map, which is the very heat map, where you like basically immediately outside because on the hot map, the one that I'm playing, it's like everything is 40 degrees or 35. Too hot to grow normal plants, so that's the problem there. The very hot map is like it's slightly more favored to the starting biome, where the starting biome is the usual temperature, like 20 degrees. But immediately outside that is just a desert, so it's just a bunch of sand, and that's all 80 degrees.
Whoa, okay.
And that's not just a problem for the heat leaking in, but 80 degrees is so hot that, like, if you're actually walking around out there without any protection, you actually take damage. So actually going out there to mine, you're starting to run into the problem of your duplicates could potentially actually take damage from the heat. So I don't know. That map seems kind of crazy.
You get like cryo suits.
Well, you just get the environmental protection suit at a certain point, but that's like a mid-game item. You need to do quite a lot of research. You need to have survived for a certain period of that game to get to that point.
So you need to run out there, take some damage, get some stuff, and come back. And then...
I mean, theoretically, it probably wouldn't be too bad. You could like mine a little bit of the passage each day or something.
It'd be like it's very of like how much radiation do you take?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And apart from these 9 new asteroids with their various setups, there's also more random stuff in the world generator as well. So there's just like, on my hot map, I also had the random modifier of volcanoes. So there's just a bunch of volcanoes around the place. Extra hotness.
Extra hot.
Although usually they're meant to spawn like sealed in. So they're like, you have this. I mean, it's the way the biomes always used to spawn. They have this impermeable wall around it that prevents heat from getting out, but then you can mine into it. And the volcanoes are meant to do that as well. So most of them are just like these little pockets of 1,000 degrees. But there was one where the wall had been broken, so the heat was just leaking out, and it was like immediately below my base. So as I started to mine down, I was like, "Oh shit, there's heat coming! There's a lot of heat coming!" So I managed to seal that up pretty quick with some insulated wall. But now there's just like this big chunk of the map below my base where it's just like, it's 300 degrees in there. Let's not worry about that. That area can just stay sealed for now. Maybe I'll put a steam engine on top of it and just extract power out of it eventually. But yeah, there's volcanoes, there's various other... I don't remember what else I have on this map, but volcanoes is the main one. But there's various other things, like you can have more or less of the geysers, the ones that produce infinite resources. So if you want more, you can turn that up. You can have more or less metal. You can have it so that you don't start in the middle of the map, which is kind of weird. Because typically you start exactly in the center, and it's like spaces up, oils down, left and right, and there's about the same amount of map. But you can have that not. And I wonder how varied that is. Like, could you get really unlucky and spawn virtually in space?
Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, it's like all this new stuff. I initially thought it was like, how are they going to fit all this new stuff in? It already seems so crowded with stuff, but it's actually totally fine. And actually,
because most of this doesn't affect the actual main core game, right? These are options as the...
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the asteroids do have like, they don't have some of the biomes that you would usually expect. Like, there's definitely one. I mean, the hot map obviously doesn't have ice biomes, so there's no free cooling there, no Weezwarts and no anti-entropy nullifiers for free cooling. But then there's also a couple of other maps where it's like, this map doesn't have the usual sandstone biome, it has the forest biome instead, which means you don't get algae for making oxygen, and you don't get copper, you get aluminium instead. So it does there are kind of cases where it can give you a completely different set of stuff to work with, but it's usually not, it's balanced well enough that you can manage. It's just slightly different, which is nice. Different is good. Random generation, it's always sweet. So yeah, that launch patch, pretty successful.
Yeah, bit of a win.
Although, theoretically they're not going to stop working on it.
Well, no game's done.
Well, I mean, Clyde specifically, they tend to do this, like Don't Starve, for example.
Oh, of course, yeah, I forget it's the same publisher. But it's not the same devs, obviously.
Well, no.
So some of the devs might decide to give up eventually.
I wouldn't bet on it. I bet it's a corporate thing where it's just like, this is what we do. And it, even just like visually, it's sort of similar to Don't Starve.
Clive don't always make those sort of games, though.
No.
It's like Clive behind like Shank.
Yeah.
And that ninja game everyone liked.
Yep.
But I can't remember. Was it just Mark of the Ninja?
Yeah,
Mark of the Ninja. And
the stealth one.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and they've got that other game that was at the PC Gaming Show or whatever at E3 coming soon.
But if you're going to make, I mean, it is a very direct comparison to Don't Starve. It's practically the same game, except not quite. But it's very similar in style and a very similar sort of concept of like survival. So I could definitely see that working in the exact same way of updates for free, but also DLC. We'll see how it goes. And I theoretically made a video of of Oxygen Not Included, but I couldn't upload it because I can't fucking log into our YouTube at the moment for some reason.
Right.
We'll
figure that out.
Yeah, my Chrome lost the password because obviously I had the password saved. And then I was like, I forgot what the password is. I said it to Rob, and he told me what the password theoretically was. And then I went and tried to enter it, and I couldn't get it to go. So either I'm bad at interpreting what Rob told me the password was, even though I remembered that's what it was when he said it.
Or I've forgotten it.
Or Rob has actually, or it's changed at some point, and Rob forgot he did that.
And we're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. But anyway, I couldn't upload that for you. So maybe that video will appear at some point. Although at this point, I'm definitely considering making what would have been part 2, which I'm still planning on make that part 1, and then just upload the other videos like episode 0 and make it a private video so it's only linked off the description.
Okay. Why, is there something wrong with it?
Well,
what's wrong with it?
Well, I don't want to disparage our own videos.
Okay.
But the original video is what we would typically do with a video. It's just me playing the game.
Right.
Whereas I think it probably would work better as a more edited thing.
Okay.
Like I'm thinking for the second, which may become first episode, of doing just every 15 in-game days or whatever, just do a little update of what I've been doing.
That makes sense.
And maybe edit it that way.
Yeah.
But we normally just make videos where it's just us playing it, so the original video is still totally fine for that concept.
Well, yeah, you can do it as real time video versus Zach teaches.
But then the fact is that the main reason I'm thinking of maybe making that be the episode 0 is now it's been 2 weeks since launch. It's not as timely. And that was why why I was getting that video done.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can just make this without too much effort. There's no editing involved really.
Yeah.
And just get it up.
Yeah, it's fine though. That doesn't matter too much. It's still a thing. Can we workshop some names for your your video series where you effectively describe what you've been up to? Can we call it the Zacademy or something?
That's definitely been a video series that I've considered for other games as well.
Yeah, that's a good name.
Zacademy.
Great.
That'll do.
There you go, done. A workshop of one.
It's definitely a very quick result to that workshop there. The first thing you come up with.
Absolutely.
Zacademy. It's a pun. It's perfect.
That's all you need. So there's that. I played a bunch of that. In fact, this is again another situation where more or less everyone on my Steam list is playing it. Well, admittedly, that's only 6 people, but they are all playing it. And so there's been various discussions.
The crowd, as far as I'm concerned, I never really see that sort of consensus of people playing the same thing.
Yeah, it's unusual. So that's cool.
And that's it. I just played a whole ton of that. My system maybe can't handle it.
Oh no. Well, you've been saying for ages that it's time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what would even help with this game because it's one of the. It's just my classic problem. Surely this is all CPU, and CPUs aren't actually better.
They are, but just not as much as they used to be. But you've been long enough out of the game where you'd see some gain.
Well, yeah. Well, you hope.
Yeah.
It would be real disappointing if I got a whole new PC and all this shit ran exactly the same.
I think that's unlikely, man.
Yeah. Because, I sort of thought the same when I upgraded from ice to fire.
Obviously, the actual answer is I should just load my save on your system and see how well it runs, and then I know.
Yeah, true. Although, my process is a couple of years old now, and it's not
as old as mine, aren't they?
And it was never
quite a long way.
And it's not my processor, my CPU is not gaming ideal because of its layout. It's more cores than you need.
Well, I mean,
it's for video stuff.
That's why I turned off hyperthreading on my machine. I was I don't need all these extra cores. Get rid of them.
Yeah. Hyperthreading's not so much of a problem these days. They sort of made it. Well, they made it okay.
Nowadays,
yeah. They sorted it out. You could get a Ryzen.
I mean, that again the other problem with thinking about
switch to AMD.
There's still that undercurrent of AMD hanging around.
Yeah.
Now people are like, "Oh, it's probably good now,"
right,
or is it?
Ryzen's are all right. They're
good for the price, aren't they? But...
Yeah, they're a decent bang for your buck option.
Yeah.
I would recommend a Ryzen over getting a AMD video card.
Well, sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nvidia still reign there, but you do have to pay for it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they coming down now, those RX kind of cards? No.
They put out the Super series.
Making everything more confusing.
Yeah.
New Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah. You can get 2080 or 2070 Super editions, which are a tiny, tiny fraction better than the last ones, to the point where they don't really justify their existence. It's a weird thing to put out.
Branding.
Yeah. They're very strange. First time that Nvidia have used the word super in anything as well.
Because they're now Nintendo.
Yeah. Well, they don't start with it. They're not like the Super 2070. They're like the 2070 Super.
So which company is that? I'm sure there's been a company that's
Yeah, I
done
think
that.
there's been something that's done that. Yeah, I can never remember.
Because it's always Super Street Fighter, but that's still Nintendo, technically.
Yeah.
I guess.
Wow.
Capcom.
Super Street Fighter was just what they called the arcade version as well.
Sure.
It was just very convenient for Nintendo's marketing.
Yes. I guess it's because it was called the Super Nintendo. That's actually why.
Yeah. It was just very convenient for them.
Yeah.
Dan, have you got anything to say about your games?
No.
Okay.
No. Hot tip
Got-
for podcast: play games.
We got any videos going up?
Well, apart from the obviously not include one that I theoretically want to put up.
Sonic Forces went up.
Yep.
Earlier this week.
Sure did.
The episode Shadow
Are you
addendum.
How far are you getting with that game?
I mean,
well, the fact.
that part 4
was
is
the
the
end.
it was the end.
Is the end,
and this is part 5, which is covers the DLC.
The cat part of Sonic Forces.
Kinda. Yeah, just watch that thing. It's something.
Should I? Okay.
See us be even more disappointed than we already were.
Yeah, basically, it's.
I did watch your moonshot, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. That was.
I mean,
how much did I cock that up, Dan?
I mean, you just went the wrong way. I mean, that was the whole problem.
I didn't really go the wrong way.
Well, I think, right, when you lifted off from the moon, that was pretty much where it all went wrong. And you just turned the wrong way.
That was
only like a couple of seconds back.
This was our Apollo 11 tribute and Kerbal Space Program for the listeners' benefit.
Yeah, check it out.
The big problem was the de-orbiting part. I tried to go directly into the atmosphere rather than going into Kerbal orbit and then decelerating. That was the mistake. That was what added to the end of that video.
Yep.
But I reckon,
long old way.
I reckon if you'd taken off the moon the right way, you would have done the maneuver that you planned to rendezvous, and then you would have had fuel for the rest of the thing.
But the docking is RCS, not actual fuel, though. That fuel had already been spent. The rest of the fuel was in the other half of the ship.
But you were trying to do burns to try and catch up with the command module for ages.
Yeah, but I had enough fuel for that, even with the bad angle.
Yeah.
Catching stuff up in orbit isn't that expensive in terms of fuel.
No, I suppose.
Even at the awkward angle we were coming out where we had to really dodgily skim the terrain.
It's just hilarious how much you can mess up in that game and it's still salvageable compared to
the
real
I mean,
life.
I had given myself quite a large amount of margin for error.
Yeah.
Even when I designed that ship, I'd gone probably 50% extra fuel in every stage.
Yeah.
And we still ran at the limits.
Yeah. That was how much we cocked up.
Still, it was cool.
It's just what I do to people. I diminish their optimum operating.
What
capacity.
bit was inaccurate? I think the one bit is that, I mean, obviously loads, but I think they do the maneuver to turn the command service module around and dock it with the lander after the translunar injection. I think you guys did it in Earth orbit.
Oh right, it's still on that second stage engine essentially, rather than the command module engine then also being part of that.
Yeah,
I guess I would have needed a third stage essentially to make that happen.
because there are 3 stages on the Saturn V.
Yeah.
Apart from some slight inaccuracies,
It
looked alright.
Yeah, it was cool. Some of the docking was hilarious, especially with the magnets making you bounce off constantly.
I realised what the problem was. You could change the power of the magnets. I should have turned it well down.
Oh wait,
that probably would have solved the problem.
Wait, you can change it mid-flight.
I think you probably could have changed it mid-flight.
Less power to them or something.
But when I did right at the start, when I did the edits to the actual thing, I was like, change this, change the decoupling power, like that bit where the thing decouples, and I was like, we need to turn that up because it didn't push it far enough apart. I did that in the editor. If I'd done that for the magnets but turned them down, probably would have been a lot easier to dock.
Yeah. Do they default to maximum strength then, or?
Yeah, pretty much everything does.
Right. Yeah.
And it's usually 5.
I mean, that's generally the good rule for life, isn't it? Default to max strength.
Yep. It's
like you're not going to buy like medium strength toothpaste.
If such thing exists.
Yeah. I suppose that's the regular Colgate as opposed to the super crystal Colgate.
Yeah. I don't think there's any difference in those two.
No.
Yeah, it's probably just branding.
And like a little bit of flavour.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Some sparkly things.
I mean, you can get toothpaste that doesn't have the fluoride in, and it's like, why? Why would you get it without the fluoride?
That's kind of the point.
The fluoride is
well, I
mean,
point. Technically, we're more okay for that with fluoridated water and all that.
Yeah,
I guess.
That's true.
Yeah. And, you're still cleaning your teeth even if you're not.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, if you have the choice, why not get fluoride in your toothpaste?
Why not have a little more?
Why not Zoidberg?
You could have
How much is too much?
You could have some health. But why not have a bit more health?
A bit more.
Get healthy.
Cool.
Get healthy by not listening to this podcast.
Yeah, we're not. Exactly
we're definitely not paragons on that.
We're not going to help you with that, as we're about to eat a smeg ton of pizza
and then play Smash Bros.
Yep,
Indeed.
Healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. So yeah, check out those videos, Kerbal and Sonic Forces, and Oxygen Not Included coming up.
I think Euphoria will come next,
and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks for another Saladcast.
That you shall.
Bye.